Jax Turing adjusted his tie, which was as out of place here as a vegan at a barbecue. The Galactic Tribunal's chamber loomed around him, an absurdly grandiose space that screamed, "I'm compensating for something." "Look at this place," Jax muttered to Dr. Citra Verne, who was busy eyeing the alien delegates with the sort of interest you'd reserve for a particularly intriguing Petri dish. "It's like they want us to feel small." "Mission accomplished," Citra replied dryly, her eyes narrowing at a creature that looked like it had lost a fight with a seafood buffet. "I think that one wants to eat me." "I think most things in this room want to eat us," Jax said. "Or at least make us wish they had." In the center of the chamber, presiding with all the charm of a dentist offering an unanesthetized root canal, was Arbiter Xyler. Xyler was a particularly unpleasant shade of mauve today, a color that suggested both authority and a recent bout with some bad shellfish. "Earth," Xyler intoned, the voice echoing in the vast chamber like a death sentence. "You stand accused of destabilizing a black hole. How do you plead?" "Well, technically, we experimented with it," Jax said, raising his hands in mock surrender. "But I think destabilizing is a touch harsh. It's like blaming a toddler for breaking a window while introducing them to a baseball." Xyler didn't blink. Jax wasn't sure if Xyler had eyelids. "Your actions have endangered countless systems." "Explain yourselves." Taking a deep breath, Jax leaned forward. "Look, we humans, we're curious. We see a black hole, we think, I wonder what happens if we poke it. Call it scientific inquiry if you will." "More like scientific insanity," Citra whispered under her breath, earning a snort of agreement from Jax. "Enough," Xyler snapped, the sound sharp enough to slice through Jax's bravado. "Present your defense or face the consequences." Jax cleared his throat, glancing at the team behind him. Citra, unfazed as ever, gave him a nod. On his other side, Engineer Holt was busy fiddling with something that looked suspiciously explosive. "Don't worry," Holt said without looking up. "If things go south, I've got a plan." "Does it involve not being instantly annihilated?" Jax asked. Holt grinned. "No promises." Turning back to the tribunal, Jax forced a smile. "All right, let me tell you a little story about human progress and curiosity." A disgruntled murmur spread among the alien delegates. Jax could swear he saw a tentacled monstrosity roll its eyes, or at least where eyes might be if it had them. "See, back on Earth we have a saying, curiosity killed the cat, but what everyone forgets is the second part. Satisfaction brought it back. We just wanted to understand the black hole. It's not our fault it got its knickers in a twist." Citra suppressed a laugh. Xyler, unfortunately, did not seem to possess a sense of humor. "Your flippancy is noted, human," Xyler said with all the warmth of a glacier at midnight. "Proceed." "We discovered an anomaly," Citra cut in, her voice as smooth and unflappable as ever. "A fluctuation in the event horizon. It was an opportunity to learn, to grow as a species." "To play with cosmic fire," Xyler countered. "Exactly," Jax said. "And who hasn't wanted to play with fire? Sure, sometimes it burns down the house, but sometimes you get to roast marshmallows." Holt gave a thumbs up. "I'm a big fan of marshmallows." Xyler's color darkened, a clear sign of irritation or perhaps an impending bowel movement. "Your cavalier attitude only serves to incriminate you further." Jax shrugged. "It's not an attitude, it's a way of life. Now, shall we continue before you decide to lobotomize us with legal jargon?" A sudden hush fell over the chamber as a new figure entered. Tall, slender, and with an air of authority that said, "I've seen things you wouldn't believe." The newcomer was Zaltek, a respected scientist from the Andromeda system. Zaltek surveyed the room with eyes like black holes themselves, deep, unyielding, and slightly terrifying. "Greetings," Zaltek said, voice surprisingly soft yet resonant, like the purr of a well-fed cat. "I am here to provide context, not judgment." "Always nice to have someone who isn't planning our immediate disintegration," Jax whispered to Citra. Zaltek nodded to Jax, acknowledging him with the kind of respect one reserves for a clever child or a particularly devious rodent. "Humans have a history of pushing boundaries," Zaltek said. "Sometimes successfully, sometimes catastrophically." But unlike many, they learn from their mistakes. We do love a good catastrophe, Holt added, grinning. Keeps things interesting. Xyler's patience, such as it was, seemed to be fraying. We are not here to discuss human resilience. We are here to determine responsibility and consequences. Consequences, Jax echoed, rolling the word around as if trying to decide if he liked the taste. A rather ominous term in your hands. Or appendages, Citra interjected helpfully. Jax gestured expansively as though trying to encompass the entire convoluted mess they'd found themselves in. Look, we get it. We might have made a slightly sizable error in judgment, but isn't that what you love about us? Our ability to screw up spectacularly and then somehow miraculously fix it. Or at least not die trying, Holt added cheerfully. Zaltek seemed to fight back a smile, or what passed for a smile among its species. Perhaps there is more value in humanity than we have given credit for. Xyler, on the other hand, was having none of it. Irrelevant, the Arbiter snapped. We must focus on the breach of cosmic law. Cosmic law, Jax chuckled. Who knew the universe had lawyers? Every sentient being seems to need them, Citra sighed. Even if they are incredibly undesirable company. Xyler's gaze could have melted steel, or at least given it a severe talking to. We will deliberate, Xyler declared, signaling the end of this particular round of verbal jousting. As the tribunal recessed, Jax turned to his team with a grin that was part defiance, part resignation. Well, that went terribly, Citra finished for him. But I've got a new theory on interstellar diplomacy. It's mostly about not getting immediately annihilated. Solid plan, Holt agreed, still toying with his mysterious gadget. In the corner of the chamber, Zaltek watched them with a mix of curiosity and something else, pity perhaps, or amusement. With aliens it was hard to tell. You think they'll spare us? Citra asked, more curious than worried. Jax shrugged. Depends on if Xyler's ulcer acts up. Citra gave him a look. You know that's not how ulcers work, right? Worth a shot, Jax said. Besides, we survived this long. What's the worst that could happen? As if on cue, the lights flickered ominously, casting the room in shadows that seemed far too eager to devour them. Holt chuckled. I love how you just had to ask. It's a gift, Jax said, feigning nonchalance as he felt the weight of the universe pressing down on their fragile human shoulders. But hey, if we do end up getting disintegrated, at least we'll go down as legends. Legends, Citra muttered, shaking her head. Or cautionary tales. With the tribunal's decision hanging like a guillotine above them, Jax and his crew settled in for what they hoped was not their final wait. The tension in the room was palpable, the kind of tense that makes you wish for a stiff drink and a dark corner. The kind of tense that said, stick around, things might just get interesting. And somewhere deep in the back of Jax's mind, a small, defiant voice piped up, reminding him of humanity's most endearing quality. When things look darkest, that's usually when they start getting good. Or hilariously, unpredictably bad. But that, as Jax would say, is just part of the charm. The Galactic Tribunal chamber resumed its oppressive silence, the kind that made you wish you'd brought a bottle of something strong and mind-numbing. But Jax Turing wasn't one to let a little thing like impending cosmic judgment ruin his day. He leaned back, feet tapping nervously, as Dr. Citra Verne reviewed the array of alien faces, well, approximations of faces, that seemed to be judging them like particularly strict panelists on an interstellar reality show. Wonder if they give points for style, Jax muttered, adjusting his tie again. The tie seemed to serve as his security blanket, a thin strip of fabric that told the universe he at least tried to look respectable. Or for sheer audacity, Citra replied, managing a smirk. We might win that one. The chamber door slid open with a heavy, satisfying thud, and in strolled Viralk, the alien lawyer tasked with the prosecution. Viralk was a beast of a being with an air of self-importance that screamed, I've never lost a case, and I don't plan on starting today. It was hard to tell if he was sneering or smiling. With Viralk, the distinction was academic. Ah, the moment we've been dreading, Jax whispered to Holt, who was still tinkering with his gadget like a kid with a new toy. "Here comes our legal executioner. Let's hope it's a quick execution," Holt murmured back. "Got dinner plans?" "Members of the tribunal," Virok began, his voice a reedy rasp that seemed to echo from the depths of some cavernous legal hell. "I stand before you to present the undeniable evidence of Earth's meddling with a black hole, endangering the stability of entire systems." A holo screen flickered to life, displaying the sort of complex data that made Jax's eyes glaze over. Charts and graphs danced in the air, each one a pixelated accusation. Virok highlighted sections with a flourish, as if conducting an orchestra of doom. "As you can see," Virok continued, "the gravitational fluctuations began shortly after Earth's so-called experiment. Their reckless actions have led to shifts in the cosmic balance, threatening countless worlds." Jax yawned theatrically. "So what you're saying is, we gave the black hole a bit of a stomach ache." Virok's eyes, or the fiery slits that served as eyes, narrowed. "Your flippant attitude will not serve you well here, human." Citra leaned in, whispering, "I think he likes you." "Hard to resist my charm," Jax replied, flashing a grin that could melt ice, or maybe just annoy it. "Now, if we examine the energy output," Virok pressed on, "we observe a significant increase in Hawking radiation, indicative of destabilization. Earth must be held accountable for this egregious violation." Jack scratched his chin. "Egregious? That means we really messed up, right?" "It's lawyer speak for we caught you with your hand in the cosmic cookie jar," Citra translated, sounding bored. Holt finally looked up from his tinkering. "You think we'll get a slap on the wrist? Or are we looking at full-on arm amputation?" Virok continued his presentation, oblivious to the sarcasm. The evidence mounted, damning slides of cosmic trauma unveiling one after another like a relentless parade of bad decisions. Meanwhile, the alien delegates watched, some with glistening interest, others with what passed for alien boredom. "And here," Virok said, pointing triumphantly to a particularly damning slide, "we see the ripple effects extending into the neighboring quadrants. Planets experiencing tectonic instability, suns flickering unpredictably. Chaos, ladies and gentlemen of the tribunal." Jax nodded appreciatively. "That's quite the light show." "Should have charged admission." Virok's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped an octave in menace. "This is not entertainment, human. This is the unraveling of order." Jax leaned forward, hands clasped. "Look, maybe we did poke the bear, but it was an innocent poke, like a nudge. Surely you've accidentally destabilized a cosmic entity or two in your time." "Never," Virok replied, with the finality of a closing cell door. "Well, first time for everything," Jax shrugged, glancing sidelong at Citra. "Seems like planet-shaking consequences are our specialty." Citra folded her arms, clearly unimpressed by Virok's theatrics. "All this evidence is great, but it lacks one thing." Virok paused, arching an eyebrow. "And what, pray, is that?" "Context," she said simply. "You can't accuse us when you don't truly understand the intent. Our goal was knowledge, not destruction." Virok's lips curled, or at least rippled. "Ignorance of the law is no excuse." "Actually, it's a pretty solid excuse when you don't know the laws exist," Jax countered. "We stumbled into this galaxy like the village idiot into a physics lecture. And that makes us what, the class clowns?" Holt added helpfully, clearly enjoying the back and forth. Virok was unmoved. "We have offered Earth the chance to explain, yet all we receive is insolence." "Insolence is just another word for honesty with flair," Jax said, unfazed. The tribunal's alien delegates murmured among themselves, their discussions lost to Jax as just another alien language he didn't understand. But he did understand one thing: they weren't exactly warming to his defense strategy. Zaltek, the seemingly impartial observer, decided to interject, their voice a soothing balm to the rising tension. "Perhaps what we lack here is a mutual understanding of motives. Human endeavors often seek to explore rather than exploit." "Thank you," Citra said. "Finally, someone speaking sense." But the consequences, Viralk snapped, unwilling to yield ground. The damage has been done, Jax shrugged. Hey, we're problem solvers. Give us a chance and maybe we can put things right. We just need the right tools, a bit of time, and possibly a miracle. Miracles are not judicially recognized, Viralk sneered, but his confidence seemed to waver ever so slightly. The tribunal recessed again, a decision pending, an ominous pause in which Jax, Citra, and Holt were left to stew in their own gallows humor and rapidly dwindling hope. You think they're buying any of this? Holt asked, once they were alone again. Nope, Jax replied breezily, but they might buy us dinner before the execution. On the bright side, Citra said, if they do fry us, at least we won't have to deal with fixing a black hole. There's always a silver lining, Jax agreed, even if it's made of impending doom. Their banter was interrupted by the sudden return of Arbiter Xyler, his mauve hue now a darker, more unsettling shade. The tribunal will reach a verdict shortly. You may want to prepare your final statements. Final statements, Holt echoed, raising an eyebrow. Is that code for last words? Let's hope not, Jax said, though his voice carried a hint of doubt. But if it is, I've got a few choice ones ready. Let's hear it, Citra urged, morbidly curious. Jax grinned, momentarily forgetting the gravity of their situation. Oh, you know, something like it was fun while it lasted, or you can't blame a species for trying. How about see you in the next life? Holt suggested. Jax chuckled. I'd rather not make any promises I can't keep. As the tribunal members filed back into the chamber, Jax felt a strange calm settle over him. Maybe it was the realization that there was nothing left to lose, or maybe it was that peculiar human instinct to find humor in the face of the abyss. All right, Jax said under his breath. Let's see what the universe has in store for us. The chamber lights, dim and foreboding, flickered ominously like a stage curtain about to rise. Jax took a deep breath, preparing to either save the day with a last-minute revelation or go down in a blaze of sarcastic glory. Earth, Arbiter Xyler began, his voice a rumbling harbinger of judgment. The tribunal has considered the evidence and will now deliver its verdict. Here we go, Citra murmured, her voice as steady as it ever was. And whatever happens, Holt added, we'll face it like humans. With a grin and a stubborn refusal to give up, Jax finished, his voice carrying a note of defiance. The tribunal's gaze bore down on them, a collective weight not unlike that of a collapsing star. The universe was watching, waiting, and it seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what would come next. Jax, standing tall, faced the judges with a smile that was equal parts bravado and resignation, ready to take whatever cosmic punchline awaited him and his crew. As Arbiter Xyler's mauve glare bore down on them, Jax Turing felt the universe's indifference more keenly than ever. Doctor. Citra Vern, always ready with a smirk, was scanning the holo-screen's damning evidence like she was looking for the punchline in an especially bad joke. Holt, still fiddling with his gadget, seemed to be the only one genuinely uninterested in the unfolding cosmic farce. Final statements, you say? Jax quipped, breaking the uncomfortable silence that had settled like a shroud. Well, let's see. I once ate a bug on a dare. Still less regretful than this trip, Citra rolled her eyes, the universal sign of someone who's long since lost patience with Jax's brand of humor. Maybe you should try We Come in Peace. It's worked so well for us so far. Members of the tribunal, Arbiter Xyler intoned, voice all doom and zero comfort. The implications of Earth's actions are grave. Grave, huh? Jax muttered. Sounds like they dug one for us already. Very funny, Citra replied, though her eyes were back on the data. But if we're going down, let's at least go down swinging. Any ideas, or are we just swinging wildly? Holt asked, finally lifting his gaze from his gadget as if he'd suddenly realized the gravity of their situation. Or maybe the battery had died. Citra shook her head, her expression shifting from skepticism to something dangerously close to concern. These charts and figures, something's off. Either the aliens failed math or someone's been playing fast and loose with the evidence. Tampering? Jax asked, hope flickering like a cheap neon sign. That's a hefty accusation. Yeah, but if we prove it, it could buy us some time. Or at least more than this half-baked defense. All right, Vern, get digging. Just remember, finding something useful is like trying to squeeze blood from a space rock. Citra was already on it, fingers dancing over the holo screen, eyes laser-focused. If there's a lie buried in here, I'll find it. They don't call me the best for nothing. Holt snorted. I thought they called you that because you made them. Details, she shot back, not missing a beat. Now hush, I'm working. With Citra on the case, Jax glanced around the tribunal chamber. Aliens of all shapes and colors sat in judgment, each looking less interested in redemption and more in spectacle. Hey, Holt, you don't think these guys would be appeased by a peace offering, do you? Holt shrugged. Depends. Got anything other than our heads on a platter? Just some leftover space rations and a witty retort. Save the retort, Holt advised. Might be the last thing that saves our skin. Meanwhile, Vrolk, the alien prosecutor, was basking in his self-righteous glow, confident that the tribunal would soon toss humanity into the cosmic trash compactor. If you're done with your theatrics, Vrolk sneered, his voice thick with disdain, the tribunal awaits your explanation. Citra, eyes glued to the holo screen, abruptly straightened. Wait a minute. These energy readings, they've been altered. There's no fluctuation pattern here that matches any known phenomenon. Jax's grin returned, sharper and more defiant. You're saying someone cooked the books. That's exactly what I'm saying, Citra confirmed, triumphant. Someone's been playing interstellar hide-and-seek with the evidence. Vrolk's confidence faltered, his features twitching with something like surprise. Preposterous. The evidence is sound. Sound maybe, Citra retorted, but far from unsinkable. Arbiter Zyler leaned forward, their interest visibly piqued. Doctor. Vern, are you suggesting evidence tampering? Damn right I am, Citra replied, crossing her arms. These readings were manipulated to make it look like Earth's experiment was the cause of all this chaos. The tribunal will not tolerate baseless accusations, Vrolk snapped, but the warble in his voice betrayed him. Baseless, Citra shot back. I've got enough baseline data to bury you 6 feet under whatever muck you crawled out of. Jax stepped forward, riding Citra's wave of momentum. Look, we might be guilty of a lot of things, bad fashion sense, poor first contact etiquette, but this ain't one of them. The tribunal murmured among themselves, the alien dialects a cacophony of skepticism and intrigue. Jax could almost hear the gears clicking in their collective heads. All right, team, Jax said under his breath, we've bought ourselves a breath of air, let's not waste it. Holt, for once looking up from his gadget, nodded. Got an idea, Jax? Yeah, Jax replied. We let Citra keep kicking Vrolk's ass with logic and hope the tribunal eats it up. Citra continued her digital autopsy of the evidence, eyes flicking over each line of fabricated data. There's a pattern here. Someone's gone to a lot of trouble to frame Earth. Any idea who? Holt asked, curiosity piqued. Not yet, but when I find out, I'll send him a thank you note. A very explosive one. Jax couldn't help but chuckle, spoken like someone who knows how to make friends. Arbiter Zyler cleared his throat, or whatever passed for one amongst mauve-colored authoritarians. We shall reconvene after a short examination of this new information. We will require time to assess the validity of these claims. Take all the time you need, Jax replied cheerfully. We aren't going anywhere. Unless it's to a cell, in which case we're very available. As the tribunal recess was called, Jax, Citra, and Holt moved back to their corner of the chamber. It wasn't much, but it was home for now, or at least their shelter from the impending storm. What's next? Holt asked, leaning back like they weren't standing on the precipice of annihilation. Wait and hope they see reason, Citra replied, though her voice carried the weight of uncertainty. Not exactly our strong suit, Jax admitted. But hell, if we're going out, at least we'll have some fun with it. With the tribunal temporarily adjourned, the atmosphere in the chamber shifted from tense to something more akin to a badly attended wake. The alien delegates mingled, discussing amongst themselves, while the humans were left to mull over their chances. "Think they'll see the truth?" Holt asked, ever the pragmatist. "Truth's a slippery bastard," Jax said, eyes on the tribunal members. "But if we can't catch it, maybe we can make it fall on its face." Citra smiled, a sharp, cunning grin. "And if that happens, we'll be there to laugh at it." Jax nodded, feeling a strange camaraderie with his team, even in the face of cosmic judgment. And that, my friends, is the human spirit. The break stretched on, the tribunal's deliberations taking longer than Jax's last attempt at making a soufflé, a culinary disaster that was still spoken of in hushed tones back on Earth. Finally, Arbiter Xyla returned to the chamber, their expression inscrutable. "The tribunal has considered your evidence, Earthlings." "Earthlings," Jax echoed softly to Citra. "When they call us that, I feel like a B-movie villain." "For the tribunal's peace of mind," Xyler continued, "we will conduct further investigations into the alleged tampering." Jax threw up his hands in mock celebration. "Hooray, more bureaucratic red tape." Citra shot him a look. "Not helping. A decision on your culpability will be postponed until this investigation is complete," Xyler concluded. "But be warned, Earthlings, should your claims prove false, the consequences will be severe." "Severe," Jax whispered to Holt. "Isn't that just a nice way of saying you're screwed?" "Pretty much," Holt agreed. "But let's hope Citra's right and we can turn this sinking ship around." As the tribunal members began to disperse, the atmosphere was one of uneasy anticipation. Jax, Citra, and Holt lingered, watching alien delegates filter out, their fate hanging in the balance. "So, what's the plan now?" Holt asked, folding his arms. "The plan," Jax said with a shrug, "is to act like we're innocent until proven guilty. And then pretend we're surprised if things go south." Citra made a noise that might have been a laugh or a groan. "And here I thought we were screwed." "We are," Jax admitted, "but at least we're doing it with style." As they filed out, Jax couldn't shake the feeling that, despite the odds, they just might have a chance. If nothing else, their peculiar brand of human tenacity and humor would make sure the universe knew they'd been there. They re-entered the corridors of the tribunal station, a place that was both awe-inspiring and oppressive in its grandeur. To Jax, it was just another alien construction trying too hard to look important. "Where to now, fearless leader?" Holt asked, falling in step beside Jax. "Now," Jax replied, feeling the absurdity of it all, "I say we hit the nearest bar. If we're going to face judgment, might as well do it with a buzz." Citra laughed, the sound somewhere between amused and exasperated. "You always have the best ideas, Jax." "Why, thank you, Citra. I do try." As they made their way through the station's labyrinthine halls, Jax couldn't help but marvel at how things had turned out. They were still in hot water, sure, but they were also still kicking. And if they had their way, they'd keep doing so until the stars burned out. In the grand scheme of things, that was all any human could ask for. The Galactic Tribunal chamber resumed its session with all the enthusiasm of a sloth contemplating a nap. The alien delegates trickled back to their grandiose perches, ready to continue weighing Earth's fate. Jax Turing, meanwhile, had decided that if you couldn't dazzle them with brilliance, you might as well baffle them with bullshit. Viralk, the alien prosecutor, strutted back to his podium. His self-importance was practically a tangible force, like a bad smell permeating the air. He cleared his throat with the delicate grace of a jackhammer and began. "The tribunal will now hear testimonies regarding Earth's previous actions." "Oh great," Jax muttered, leaning over to Citra. "More bedtime stories about how we're the cosmic boogeymen." "Provided by our friendly neighborhood alien tattletales," Citra added, rolling her eyes. Viralk motioned towards a new witness, a lizard-like creature with more eyes than any evolutionary plan could possibly justify. "This is Kurug, who will testify about the incident on Zebulon Prime." "Zebulon Prime," Jax exclaimed, feigning shock. "Wasn't that the time we accidentally microwaved an entire moon?" Kurug's eyes, all 8 of them, narrowed menacingly. The humans' reckless mining operations caused catastrophic seismic activities, resulting in the destabilization of our planetary core. Jax leaned back, affecting nonchalance. Seismic activity, you say? I blame the interpretive dance routines. Those things cause all kinds of vibrations. Several delegates snickered, but Viralk shot them a glare that promised bureaucratic purgatory. Do you deny these actions? Viralk demanded, his voice ripe with anticipated victory. Jax shrugged. Let's just say our interior decorators got a bit carried away. But who doesn't love a bit of terraforming, eh? Kurug continued, undeterred by the flippancy. Had our scientists not intervened, Zebulon Prime would have been lost. See, Jax grinned. You got a chance to show off your superior technology. You're welcome. Viralk's patience, thinner than a single-sheet toilet paper, began to fray. This is a serious matter, Earthling. Serious as a black hole in a teacup, Jax agreed, nodding solemnly. But since we're all here, why not hear about some of our other greatest hits? Another witness, a gelatinous blob resembling a particularly disgruntled jello mold, sloshed forward. The humans disrupted our sacred migration paths with their so-called expeditionary fleets. Ah, yes, Jax mused, tapping his chin. The infamous fleet of the damned. I always said they needed a better GPS, Doctor. Citra Vern was back at her holo screen, fingers working like a caffeinated octopus. Her mind was a laser, cutting through the layers of manipulated data. She whispered, "Keep him distracted, Jax. I'm close to cracking this mess wide open." "Righto, Citra," Jax said, drawing on his wellspring of absurdity. He addressed the tribunal, speaking of sacred paths. Have I told you about the human tradition of April Fools? It's a day dedicated entirely to pranks. Like, say, framing an entire species for cosmic misconduct. The tribunal remained silent, but there was a noticeable ripple of confusion at the introduction of human customs. Some delegates began murmuring, trying to decipher whether this was another of Earth's dangerous follies or merely the ramblings of a madman. Viralk, however, was immune to distraction. These witnesses highlight a pattern of behavior that cannot be ignored. Patterns. Holt chimed in from his corner, finally looking up from his gadget. You mean like those geometric puzzles they keep sending us? I always thought they were just asking for help with their interior decorating. Citra suppressed a smile. Jax, Holt, keep them talking, just a little longer. Jax turned his attention back to the tribunal. While we're confessing, let's talk about Earth cuisine. I assume you all know what pizza is. It's a delicacy we invented to apologize for the invention of pineapple on pizza. Several delegates visibly cringed, a universal understanding of culinary crimes against nature. Viralk tried to regain control, his voice rising an octave. This is a serious tribunal, not a platform for your absurd Earth tales. Jax smirked. Absurd Earth tales are our specialty. And speaking of specialties, Citra's fingers flew over the holo screen. I've got something, she announced, voice low but urgent. I've found traces of several signatures embedded in the tampered data, cross-referencing now. Jax, masking his hope with bravado, continued his antics. By the way, did I mention our other tradition? We call it passing the buck. It's a complex maneuver involving shifting blame and avoiding responsibility, a skill we've honed to perfection. There was a slight twitch in Viralk's many-jointed jaw. Earth's history of reckless behavior speaks for itself. History's a funny thing, Jax said, leaning back with a grin. It's written by the winners, isn't it? Or in this case, the guy who shouts the loudest and wears the fanciest robes. Citra's eyes widened as her screen flashed with confirmation. I've got it, she whispered, her voice a mix of triumph and urgency. The evidence was doctored by an external party. I've got the proof. Jax's grin widened. Well, Viralk, looks like your story's got more holes than a sieve. Arbiter Xyler leaned forward, his mauve aura flickering with intrigue. Doctor, Vern, you have something to present. Citra nodded, stepping forward. Yes, Arbiter. I've identified inconsistencies in the data signatures that point to an outside interference. The tribunal's interest was piqued, the room's oppressive silence now charged with tension. Viralk sputtered, his self-assured demeanor cracking like cheap pottery. "This is an outrage. Outrage is our middle name," Jax said, arms crossed defiantly. Or at least, it would have been if bureaucratic naming laws hadn't gotten in the way. Citra continued to display her findings on the holo screen, the data laid bare for all to see. These alterations were intended to frame Earth as the sole perpetrator. Someone out there wants us out of the picture. The tribunal was buzzing now, the alien delegates exchanging rapid-fire glances and whispers. Jax could almost hear their collective brain gears grinding. Arbiter Xyler raised a hand, silence falling like a guillotine. The tribunal will take this new evidence into serious consideration. Jax leaned in, voice conspiratorial. While you're at it, maybe consider that not every problem in the universe is caused by us. Sometimes it's just a bad day at the office. Viralk, his facade slipping further, attempted a last stand. These claims are unfounded and desperate. Desperate, Jax replied, his tone one of mock offense. Desperate is hitting the closed door button repeatedly when you see your boss coming. This, my friend, is just another day at the Galactic office. As the tribunal called for another recess to digest the new information, Jax, Citra, and Holt reconvened in their corner, a motley crew of improbable heroes. Holt, finally looking away from his gadget, smirked. "Looks like we bought ourselves another day, maybe even a second dessert." Citra, still riding the high of her discovery, nodded. "We've got them questioning things. It's not much, but it's a start." Jax, feeling an inexplicable sense of camaraderie, placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "Remember, we're not out of the black hole yet, but as long as we're still breathing, we've got a fighting chance." The break stretched into eternity, each second a small eternity as they waited for the tribunal's decision on the new evidence. The chamber's atmosphere shifted from tense anticipation to something resembling reluctant hope. "Think they'll come around?" Holt asked, always the realist amidst the chaos. "Do I think they'll acknowledge we've been more the victims of cosmic politics than criminals?" Jax pondered, eyes scanning the tribunal. "Hell no. But if there's anything humans are good at, it's beating the odds. And making terrible life choices," Citra added with a smirk. Jax chuckled, the sound tinged with a mixture of defiance and resignation. "Yeah, but at least we do it with style." As the tribunal finally reassembled, the air was thick with expectation. Jax, Citra, and Holt took their places, bracing themselves for whatever came next. Arbiter Xyler, their expression as unreadable as ever, addressed the assembly. "The new evidence provided by Dr. Verne will undergo a thorough investigation. Until the results are confirmed, Earth's final judgment shall remain pending." Jax, never one to miss an opportunity for a quip, leaned over to Citra. "Pending. That's just bureaucratic, for we'll get to it when we feel like it, right?" "Pretty much," Citra replied, though her relief was evident. "Pending," Holt repeated, rolling the word around like a strange fruit. "I can live with pending." As the tribunal dispersed once more, the humans were left to reflect on the bizarre twists of fate that had led them to this moment. "Guess we're still in the game," Jax said, feeling oddly buoyant despite the cosmic sword still hovering over their heads. "The game's a rigged one," Citra replied, her voice firm. "But we've got a trick or two up our sleeves." Holt nodded, a rare smile breaking through his usual stoic mask. "And we've got each other. That's gotta count for something. Just don't start singing Kumbaya and we'll be fine," Jax joked, though the camaraderie warmed him in a way that even the coldness of space couldn't touch. As they left the chamber, navigating the convoluted corridors of the tribunal station, Jax couldn't help but think that, whatever the universe threw at them next, they'd face it with the same irreverent spirit that had carried them this far. After all, in a galaxy that seemed hell-bent on their downfall, laughter might just be the best weapon they had. The Galactic Tribunal's chamber resembled a cosmic courtroom, designed by an architect with serious overcompensation issues. Grandiose columns that didn't really hold anything up, a ceiling mural depicting what looked like a cosmic rendition of a cheesy B-grade sci-fi poster, and rows of alien delegates that all seemed to have gotten the memo about dressing in various shades of disappointment. Arbiter Xyler, with a demeanor as rigid as a politician at a scandal hearing, leaned forward, his mauve glare making it feel like the universe itself was judging humanity. "The tribunal has reached a preliminary decision," he intoned, as if delivering a eulogy at a funeral for optimism. "Due to the evidence presented, severe sanctions against Earth are warranted." Jax Turing managed a smirk, though inside it felt like his stomach was auditioning for a role in a disaster movie. "Severe sanctions. Now there's a shocker," he muttered to Citra. "Next, they'll tell us water's wet." Citra, eyes glued to her holo screen, sighed. "It's like finding out your birthday's been canceled because someone decided to hold a cosmic yard sale." Holt, finally looking up from his gadget, raised an eyebrow. "Sanctions, huh? Guess we won't be getting any more of those delightful helpful hints from the Galactic Guide to not messing things up." Jax turned back to the tribunal, his voice dripping with calculated nonchalance. "You know, if I had a credit for every time someone threatened us with sanctions, I'd be rich enough to not care about sanctions." Vrog, the alien prosecutor looking as smug as a cat in a cream factory, was about to gloat when Jax interrupted. "But before we all rush to judgment like it's a half-price sale on moral superiority, I propose a demonstration. Something to clear our name or at least smudge it differently." The room buzzed with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Arbiter Xyler raised a brow, a gesture that might have been impressive if his species had eyebrows. "A demonstration," Jax nodded. "Yeah, you know, the kind where we prove we're not the cosmic screw-ups you think we are. Or at the very least get a chance to show off how creatively we can screw up." Citra shot him a wary glance. "Jax, what are you doing?" "Improvising," he whispered back. "It's either that or we start writing 'Dear Mom, we're screwed' letters." Arbiter Xyler hesitated, the tribunal's collective curiosity piqued. "And what exactly do you propose?" Jax took a breath, channeling every ounce of bravado he didn't really feel. "A live demonstration of our technology and protocols. Let us show you we're not guilty of the cosmic vandalism we're accused of. We might not have a spotless record, but we sure know how to clean up after ourselves." Vrog spluttered, trying to regain control. "This is unprecedented." "A distraction tactic, a demonstration of our competence," Vrog, Jax corrected, "or lack thereof. Either way, we promise it'll be entertaining." The tribunal murmured amongst themselves, alien delegates whispering in languages that sounded like a bad day at a dentist's office. Arbiter Xyler finally nodded, though his expression remained as welcoming as a tax audit. "Very well. The tribunal will allow this demonstration, but failure will mean immediate enactment of the sanctions." Jax saluted. "Wouldn't expect anything less." As the tribunal adjourned for yet another recess, the humans gathered in their corner, the weight of the universe's most bureaucratic sword still hanging over them. Holt was the first to speak. "A demonstration, huh? And what exactly are we demonstrating, Jax?" "Our uncanny ability to wing it." "That," Jax said, "and the fact that we might not be the galactic villains everyone thinks we are. Just misunderstood geniuses with a penchant for accidental chaos." Citra ran a hand through her hair, her mind already spinning with possibilities. "We need to focus. What technology can we showcase that won't blow up in our faces? Or theirs? Something simple, effective, and not prone to exploding," Holt suggested, his fingers twitching over his gadget like a pianist who'd just realized he was playing air guitar. Jax nodded, the beginnings of a plan forming in his head. "We'll need to pull out all the stops. Show them we're not just the galaxy's favorite scapegoat." As they hashed out ideas, the reality of their situation loomed over them like a really persistent storm cloud. The galaxy seemed hell-bent on making Earth the poster child for cosmic oopses. "This is our darkest hour," Citra said, her voice barely a whisper. "And the universe is holding a flashlight to watch us squirm." "Yeah," Jax agreed, his voice tinged with defiance. "But here's the thing about dark hours, they're not endless. The sun's gotta rise eventually, even if it just peeks through the blinds." Holt chuckled, a rare sound from someone who usually preferred the company of circuitry over sentiment. "And until it does, we've got to keep the lights on ourselves." As the tribunal slowly reassembled, the humans returned to their places, facing the alien assembly that seemed keen on watching them crash and burn. Arbiter Xyler gestured for silence, the room's ambient noise dropping to the level of a library whose patrons were all wearing headphones. "You may proceed with your demonstration, humans." Jax took a deep breath, stepping forward with the kind of confidence that only came from knowing you had absolutely no idea what you were doing. "Ladies, gentlemen, and entities of indeterminate taxonomy, prepare to be dazzled by humanity's finest." Holt tapped a button on his gadget, and a series of holographic displays flickered to life, each showing different aspects of Earth's space tech. Jax narrated, his voice laced with a mix of sarcasm and genuine enthusiasm. "So, let's start with our infamous mining operations, the ones that allegedly turned Zebulon Prime into a cosmic Swiss cheese," Jax began, pointing to a hologram depicting a sleek mining ship. "Contrary to popular belief, these babies come with more safety features than a paranoid android. Anti-gravity stabilizers, energy-efficient drills, and yes, an onboard bar for when things go wrong." Citra took over, highlighting the environmental sensors. "These sensors ensure that we're not just plundering willy-nilly. We take data seriously, even if it sometimes feels like we're using a paperclip to fix a starship." The delegates watched, expressions ranging from curiosity to outright disbelief. Jax could almost hear their thoughts. Is this for real, or did they just raid a prop closet? Holt followed up with a demonstration of Earth's communication satellites, the holographic display zooming through orbits like a cosmic roller coaster. "And these beauties, they form a network so robust, we can stream cat videos from Andromeda to Zeta Reticuli without buffering." Citra jumped in, her tone steady. "This isn't just about mining or streaming. It's about communication, sharing knowledge, and not accidentally destabilizing neighboring systems." Jax concluded, his voice filled with the kind of bravado that hoped to mask their precarious situation. "So, as you can see, we're not just the galaxy's bad punchline. We're trying to be a part of this big, dysfunctional family." Arbiter Xyler leaned back, a thoughtful expression on his otherwise inscrutable face. "A compelling presentation, Earthlings. Yet the question remains, are these intentions enough to outweigh the consequences of your actions?" Jax nodded, as if considering the tribunal's perspective. "Actions have consequences, sure, but sometimes the actions aren't what they seem. We're not perfect, but we're not the lone villains of this story. Every species here has a chapter in the Galactic Screw-Up anthology." Vralk, his confidence shaken by the humans' unexpected showmanship, tried to regain the upper hand. "Interesting theatrics, but where's the evidence that Earth wasn't responsible for the black hole tampering?" Jax gave a lopsided grin, his mind racing. "Evidence? How about the fact that if we were that good at destabilizing things, we wouldn't be standing here with our necks on the metaphorical chopping block?" Citra, sensing the tribunal's tension, added, "And as Dr. Verne demonstrated earlier, there are traces of tampering in the data. The question isn't just what happened, but who wanted it to look like it was our fault." The room fell into a familiar silence, the kind that usually preceded a decision that could change everything. Arbiter Xyler, ever the embodiment of impartial judgment, nodded. "The tribunal will deliberate on the demonstration and the new evidence. Until then, sanctions remain pending." Jax shrugged, his expression one of practiced indifference. "Pending's better than condemned. We'll take it. As the humans left the tribunal chamber, the weight of uncertainty still hanging over their heads like a persistent rain cloud, Jax felt a strange mix of relief and dread. "Do you think they'll buy it?" Holt asked, his voice echoing the doubt that they all felt. "Buy it?" Jax replied, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "I just hope they put it on layaway long enough for us to come up with a better plan." Citra, ever the realist, nodded. "We've got to keep pushing, find more evidence, and maybe, just maybe, turn this mess around." The corridor stretched before them, a labyrinth of possibilities and pitfalls. But as they walked, side by side, there was one thing they knew for sure. They weren't out of the cosmic woods yet, but they'd face whatever came with the same irreverent spirit that had brought them this far. "Guess it's time to work some more human magic," Jax said, his voice filled with that indomitable spark that refused to be snuffed out, even in the darkest of hours. Holt chuckled. "Magic or madness? Bit of both," Jax replied, leading the way into the uncertain future that awaited them beyond the chamber doors. After all, in a universe that seemed to thrive on chaos, they were determined to write their own chapter, one irreverent word at a time. The Galactic Tribunal's chamber was a place where hope went to die a slow, bureaucratic death. Jax Turing stood before the assembly of alien delegates, feeling like a comedian bombing at an intergalactic open mic night. The holograms flickered behind him, depicting Earth's so-called technological prowess, though right now, that prowess was about as convincing as a politician's promise. Citra's fingers danced over her holo screen, a bead of sweat tracing down her brow like a lazy river. "Well, Jax, we're doing a great job convincing them we can't even operate a toaster, let alone a mining ship." "Relax," Jax whispered, an easy grin masking the panic roiling in his gut. "We're just setting the stage." "Every good joke needs a disastrous setup, right?" Holt, fiddling with his gadget like it was a Rubik's Cube designed by sadists, muttered. "Yeah, well, our punchline better be a damn killer or we're toast." The holographic mining ship, intended to be the centerpiece of their showcase, was currently spiraling out of control on the display, mimicking their current situation with unnerving accuracy. Arbiter Zyler watched with a mixture of incredulity and boredom, the kind of expression a teacher reserves for a student who just ate paste. V-Ralk, the alien prosecutor with a nose for human misfortune, leaned in, his smile as smug as ever. "Is this part of your demonstration, Earthlings? Showing us how your technology fails spectacularly?" Jax shrugged, his nonchalance a thin veneer over his flailing thoughts. "Of course. What better way to highlight our improvements than by showing you how far we've come from this? Creative chaos." Kurug, the lizard-like creature, hissed softly, a sound somewhere between a chuckle and a warning growl. "I must admit, humans, your performance is unique." "Unique's one word for it," Jax muttered under his breath. "Clusterfuck might be another." As the mining ship hologram collided with an imaginary asteroid, the delegates' whispers crescendoed into a cacophony. Jax cleared his throat, preparing for his Hail Mary play, the one card they'd kept hidden, hoping it would turn the tide if they found themselves neck-deep in galactic quicksand. "All right, folks, you've seen what went wrong. Now let me show you what went right," Jax announced, his confidence borrowed heavily from desperation. The room fell into a tense silence, the kind that stretches out like an awkward dinner conversation with in-laws. Jax gestured to Holt, who nodded, fingers flying over his gadget with the grace of a pianist composing the final notes of a symphony no one would ever hear. The holographic display shifted, revealing a new image, a sleek, almost predatory ship, one that bore no resemblance to Earth's known fleet. Its design was elegant yet practical, as if someone had finally figured out how to combine style with substance. The delegates leaned forward, their collective curiosity piqued for the first time. "Behold," Jax said, a dramatic flair in his voice, "the Turing Mark Roman II, an initiative Earth launched in secret to rectify our less than impressive track record." Citra's eyebrows shot up, her surprise only slightly less than that of the tribunal. "I didn't know we had a Mark Roman too," she whispered. "Neither did they," Jax replied, his grin widening. "Figured it was time we got creative." "Impressive," Arbiter Zyler mused, his tone less dismissive. "But what makes this ship different?" "Great question," Jax said, stalling for time as his brain caught up with his mouth. "The Turing Mark Roman II isn't just a ship, it's a testament to human ingenuity. It's powered by a micro-black hole reactor, stabilized with quantum algorithms designed by the best minds of our generation." Holt chimed in, his voice steady despite the silent panic vibrating in his chest. "The reactor not only provides an almost limitless energy supply, but also minimizes our environmental impact. Think of it as a cosmic recycling program. Are you suggesting you've managed to harness black hole energy without destabilizing the surrounding systems?" Viralk's voice was a mixture of skepticism and begrudging admiration. "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Jax said, spinning his narrative like a spider crafting a web. "Our demonstration might have had a rocky start, but the Turing Mark Roman II is the future. A future where Earth isn't the galaxy's clumsy toddler, but a contributor to its advancement." The hologram shifted again, this time showing the Mark Roman II's automated systems deploying drones to repair a simulated breach in the ship's hull. The drones worked with surgical precision, a stark contrast to the chaos of moments before. Citra, catching onto Jax's gambit, added, "This technology isn't just theoretical. We've conducted simulations that show its capabilities in real-time scenarios. With the Turing Mark Roman II, we aim to stabilize systems, not destabilize them." Kurug tilted his head, his yellow eyes narrowing. "And yet, you claim this ship is your secret weapon against the accusations you face." Jax nodded, the tension in his shoulders finally easing. "Exactly. We've been developing this to address the very issues we're accused of causing. We're not just trying to cover our mistakes but learn from them, evolve." Arbiter Zyler seemed to ponder this, his gaze flicking between the humans and the hologram. "A compelling argument, Earthlings, but you understand that this does not absolve you of your past actions." "Absolutely," Jax agreed, his voice steady. "We're not asking for a free pass, just a chance to prove we're not the cosmic screw-ups we're painted as." The tribunal settled into a contemplative silence, the kind Jax hoped meant they were considering Earth's plight with something approaching sympathy. He knew they weren't out of the woods yet, but they'd at least carved a path through the brambles. As the assembly deliberated, Jax turned to his team, his voice low but filled with resolve. "All right, folks, we've bought ourselves some time. Now we need to dig deeper, find out who set us up and why." Citra nodded, her analytical mind already racing. "We need to dive into the data again, look for anomalies, anything that could point to an outside influence." Holt, still fiddling with his gadget, added, "And maybe find a way to get the tribunal to ease up on the sanctions. Being cut off from the Galactic Guide's helpful hints is like losing the instruction manual to the universe." Jax grinned, his humor undiminished by the gravity of their situation. "Hey, we're humans. We're born without instruction manuals." As they exited the chamber, the weight of cosmic judgment still looming over them, Jax felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their demonstration might have started like a galactic train wreck, but they'd managed to claw their way back from the brink. Now, all they needed was the truth, assuming they could recognize it among the pile of galactic bullshit. "So," Jax said, leading their ragtag band down yet another labyrinthine corridor, "ready to save the universe?" "Only if we can do it before Happy Ayur," Holt replied, his humor a balm in their sea of uncertainty. "Time to embrace our inner underdogs," Citra added, determination etched into her features. They walked forward, a small group of misfits facing the universe's indifference with a mixture of grit, wit, and a touch of madness. In a galaxy that seemed determined to crush them, they'd fight back with the one thing no one else had, a distinctly human flair for the unpredictable. Jax chuckled to himself, a sound caught somewhere between defiance and hope. In the grand cosmic comedy, they were the punchline no one saw coming. And that, he figured, was their greatest strength. As the tribunal chamber's doors closed behind them, Jax couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. They'd turned the tide, if only slightly, but now came the hard part, finding out who'd pointed the finger at Earth and making sure the universe knew they weren't the only ones playing dirty. "Time to get creative," Jax said, his voice carrying a resolve that was all too human. "Creative or insane," Holt quipped. "Why not both?" Jax replied with a smirk, leading them into the uncertain future that awaited them, one irreverent step at a time. The Galactic Tribunal's chamber was a graveyard of hope, with human-sized coffins reserved for those who dared to dream too big. Jax, Citra, Holt, and the rest had miraculously avoided being buried alive in bureaucratic bullshit, but had to admit, it was a close call. As the team regrouped in a side chamber, far from Arbiter Zyler's judgmental gaze, Jax's mind buzzed like a hive of bees high on caffeine. "All right, folks," he said, pulling a chair and spinning it backwards like a schoolyard rebel. "We've got a breather, but let's not pat ourselves on the back just yet. We still need to figure out who framed Earth." Citra, her fingers still glued to the holo screen like a teenager to their phone, mused. "We need to dissect the data. There's something in there we're not seeing, something hidden behind layers of alien bullshit." "Data's the easy part," Holt said, his gadget twirling in his hands like a lifeline. "The hard part is making the tribunal see it without their brains short-circuiting." "Yeah, well," Jax replied, a sardonic edge to his voice, "nothing worth doing was ever easy. Let's roll up our sleeves and dig in." As Citra dove headfirst into the digital mire, a silence settled over the team, punctuated only by the occasional muttered curse. Holt, meanwhile, was dissecting the alien records with the finesse of a man peeling an orange on a roller coaster. "Here's the thing," Citra said, her eyes scanning the streams of data faster than a drunk scans a bar menu. "The aliens' evidence against us is as solid as water vapor. There are gaps, inconsistencies, like someone tried to Photoshop reality." Jax leaned in, intrigued. "Are you saying the evidence is doctored?" Citra nodded, her expression sharp as a razor. "Looks like it. Probably why it never quite added up. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with pieces from different boxes. And guess who the generous donor of those puzzle pieces might be?" Jax grinned, the kind of grin that made friends uneasy and enemies downright terrified. "Whoever it is," he said, "they've got a date with destiny, and by destiny I mean our fists. Or our minds," Citra corrected, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yeah, those two," Jax conceded. "Holt, any luck with your gadget?" Holt shrugged, his demeanor the epitome of too cool for school. "Oh, you know, just rewriting the alien OS to display the truth." "Piece of cake, really, if the cake was made of antimatter and doom." "Fantastic," Jax said, clapping Holt on the back. "Because we're about to turn this tribunal into a circus, and not the kind with happy elephants. More like the kind with homicidal clowns," Citra added. "Exactly," Jax replied. "Let's give them a show they won't forget." Back in the tribunal chamber, the delegates were a sea of suspicion and resentment. Arbiter Zyler sat like a disappointed parent, while Viralk gleefully awaited their inevitable downfall. Kurug's amused eyes flickered over the humans, as if anticipating their next blunder with relish. "Earthlings," Zyler began, their voice echoing through the chamber like the last words of a condemned soul. "Have you prepared your final arguments?" "Indeed we have, your arbiterness," Jax said, his tone as smooth as a buttered eel. "And might I say, we've saved the best for last." "Let's hope it's less catastrophic than your previous performances," Viralk chimed in, sarcasm oozing from every syllable. "Oh, it's a doozy," Jax replied with a wink. "Holt, if you would." Holt stepped forward, his gadget glowing with ominous intent. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted life forms," he said, addressing the room with the gravitas of a magician about to pull a tiger from his hat. "Prepare yourselves for a revelation so shocking you might just actually pay attention for once." Citra activated her holo screen, the display flickering before stabilizing into a clear image. The data that had damned Earth now scrolled across the ceiling, a testament to deceit and manipulation. "What you see," Jax announced, "is evidence of a frame-up. Someone's been playing a game of cosmic hide-and-seek with the truth, and guess what? The truth's tired of hiding." The delegates leaned in, their skepticism wavering. The data, once choppy and damning, now flowed seamlessly, revealing gaps and alterations that defied explanation. "Do you see it?" Citra interjected, her voice sharp. "The inconsistencies. Whoever put this together didn't account for cross-referential data points. It's like they were trying to forge a Picasso with a paint-by-numbers kit." Arbiter Xyler, finally showing something other than indifference, regarded the data with new eyes. "This cannot be," they muttered, a hint of disbelief cracking their facade. "Oh, it be," Jax confirmed, his grin wider than ever. "Someone's been very naughty, and it wasn't us." Viralt glared daggers, his confidence eroding like a sandcastle in a hurricane. "What you're suggesting is preposterous." "Preposterous, sure," Holt said, "but also entirely plausible. You see, this data was doctored to set us up. And guess who's been suspiciously quiet about their own investigative efforts?" "That's right, those meddling bastards from the Zorkian conglomerate." Kurug hissed in amusement, his tail flicking with excitement. "Intriguing. Could it be that the Zorkians were more than impartial observers, more like impartial obstructionists?" Jax corrected. "They've been trying to corner the market on black hole tech for ages. What better way than to make us look like galactic screw-ups?" The chamber erupted into chaos, whispered accusations, shocked exclamations, and the buzzing tension of 1,000 bees in a tin can. Jack stood firm amid the storm, his expression one of a man who'd just called a bluff and seen the house of cards come crashing down. Arbiter Xyler raised a hand for silence, their expression thoughtful as though considering the price of redemption. "If Earth is not at fault, then the tribunal must reassess the evidence and determine the true culprit." "Finally," Citra muttered, "someone's using their brain." Viralk, sputtering with indignation, tried to regain control. "This is absurd." "You can't just—" "Oh, we can," Jax interrupted, his voice dripping with triumph. "And we did. So how about you take your fabricated evidence and shove it into the nearest black hole?" Kurug's laughter echoed across the chamber, a deep, rumbling sound of genuine amusement. "I must say, humans, your ingenuity is unexpected." "Unexpected's one word for it," Jax replied, his tone as dry as the deserts of Mars. With the tribunal's focus shifted from human culpability to alien duplicity, Jax and his crew had turned the tables with a finesse that bordered on the theatrical. The Zorkian conglomerate, once confident in their victory, now faced the scrutiny of a tribunal that smelled blood. "Let's keep the pressure on," Jax said, rallying his team as they left the chamber for what felt like the 100th time. Citra nodded, her mind already racing through potential next steps. "We need more than just a hunch. We need hard proof to shove down their throats. And a way to keep the tribunal on our side," Holt added. "They've got the attention span of a gnat on caffeine." "Then let's give them a show they can't ignore," Jax replied, his grin as sharp as ever. "We've turned the tide, but we're not out of the storm yet." As they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors, their resolve was stronger than ever. Despite the odds, they'd managed to flip the script, turning their trial into a stage for revelation. And while the future was uncertain, Jax couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction. They'd faced down the universe's bureaucratic juggernaut and lived to tell the tale, their irreverent flair and refusal to quit their greatest assets. "Look at us," Citra said, a touch of pride in her voice. "Taking on the galaxy and winning." "Let's not get cocky," Holt warned, though his grin said otherwise. "We've still got a lot of work to do." "Yeah," Jax agreed. "But for the first time in a while, it feels like we might just pull this off." As they pressed forward into the unknown, their steps echoed with determination and a hint of rebellious glee. They were the universe's underdogs, its misfits, but now, just maybe, its unlikely heroes as well. And in a galaxy that thrived on chaos and conflict, That made all the difference. The Galactic Tribunal's chamber buzzed with an energy that could charitably be described as hostile resignation. The delegates sat bathed in flickering light from the holo screens, whispers of disbelief and grudging admiration threading through the room like a chorus of disgruntled bees. The arbiters had been forced to reassess, and boy, did they look thrilled about it. Arbiter Xyler, the living embodiment of a bureaucratic migraine, adjusted their robes with all the enthusiasm of a man about to announce his own execution. Earth's innocence regarding the black hole destabilization has been reevaluated, Xyler declared, their voice as welcoming as a tax audit. Sanctions will be lifted. Jax resisted the urge to break into a victory dance. Barely. Well, how about that, he said, grinning like a cat that just ate the canary, and the canary's smug little cousin too. Looks like the truth's not just out there, but in here too. Viralk, who had been the self-appointed prosecutor with a stick so far up his posterior it was practically a hat, glowered at Jax. "This isn't over, Earthling," he spat, his voice sharp enough to shave with. "Sure, sure," Jax replied, shrugging with the casual insolence of a man who'd just outwitted an entire room. "Let me know how that goes for you. Send a postcard from whichever black hole you find yourself in." Citra was already tapping away at her holo screen like a caffeinated squirt, documenting every second of the tribunal's reluctant capitulation. "Guess they finally saw the light," she said, voice tinged with a mixture of relief and lingering disbelief. "Or at least the part of it that doesn't involve us getting blamed for cosmic screw-ups." Kurug, the lizard-like creature who'd found the whole debacle as entertaining as a Shakespearean comedy, flicked his tongue in amusement. "Your victory is surprising, Earthlings. Perhaps not everything about your species is grim." Holt chuckled, his gadget still spinning in his hands like a pet fidget spinner. "Grim, maybe not. But unpredictable, that's our middle name." Jax turned his attention back to Xyler, who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, perhaps even the vacuum of space without a suit. "So, about that whole Earth is a galactic menace thing," Jax said, trying to sound diplomatic and mostly failing. "We're good now, right? As good as can be expected given the circumstances," Xyler replied, their tone as dry as a bone left in the desert. "The tribunal acknowledges the unique perspective Earth brings to the galactic community." Translation, Citra whispered to Holt. "They're stuck with us." Viralk was still scowling, his dignity crumbling faster than a sandcastle at high tide. "This is an outrage," he muttered, though his threats were becoming as empty as a politician's promises. "Cheer up, Viralk," Jax said, patting the alien on what he hoped was a shoulder. "There's always next time. Though honestly, let's not make this a habit." Xyler, keen to bring an end to the proceedings before they devolved further, made one final proclamation. "This tribunal is adjourned. The sanctions are lifted, and Earth is to be reintegrated with full privileges." With that, the chamber erupted into murmurs, some begrudgingly supportive, others just eager to escape the circus of human bravado. Jax and his team took their leave, walking out with the air of rock stars departing a successful concert, if rock stars were known for averting interstellar disasters. As they exited, Kurug sidled up alongside them, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "I must say, Jax, your kind is unexpected. Perhaps there's more to be learned from humans than we previously imagined." Jax smirked. "Oh, there's plenty to learn, like how to make a mean cup of coffee or how to win a staring contest with a cat. We're full of surprises." Citra rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her grin. "And by surprises, we mean disasters. Managed ones if we're lucky." Once they were a safe distance from the tribunal's prying ears, the team gathered in a side chamber to bask in their unexpected triumph. The weight of the universe's judgment lifted, leaving a delicious void filled with possibility. "Well, I didn't expect that to go quite so smoothly," Holt admitted, a touch of wonder in his voice. "I mean, I figured we'd either turn things around or be vaporized. Glad it was the former." Jax chuckled, leaning back against the wall with the languid grace of a man temporarily free from the gallows. Guess we had a few tricks up our sleeves after all, and a bit of luck, Citra added, closing her holo screen with a satisfied tap. Can't forget that. Luck favors the bold, Jax quipped. Or the stupid. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, Holt shrugged. Either way, we're still here. Yeah, Jax agreed, a contemplative note in his voice. Still here and still raising hell. Their return journey to Earth was a far cry from the tense, uncertain voyage that had brought them to the tribunal's doorstep. No longer the accused, they were returning as something unexpected, heroes. Or at least the closest thing to heroes that misfits like them could claim to be. As their ship cruised through the inky blackness of space, the reality of their situation began to sink in. They had done the impossible, not just surviving the tribunal, but altering the galactic perception of humanity itself. Think we'll get a parade? Holt asked, half joking, as he tinkered with his gadget. More like a strongly worded letter, Citra replied. But who knows? Maybe they'll throw in a fruit basket too. Jack smiled, staring out at the stars as they streaked past. Whatever we get, we've earned it. And more importantly, we've shown the galaxy what we're made of. Kurug, who'd hitched a ride back with them out of sheer curiosity, watched the interplay with unabashed interest. It seems the galaxy underestimates you Earthlings. Yeah, well, Jack said, being underestimated is kind of our thing. Makes the surprises that much sweeter. The ship's comm system crackled to life, and Earth's command center hailed them with congratulatory messages and a request for a full debrief upon landing. It seemed the news of their success had traveled faster than light, as gossip tends to do. You know, Citra mused, this might actually change things. Real change, not just the kind we talk about over drinks and then forget about. Jax nodded, absorbing the weight of her words. Could be. We've opened some eyes, and maybe now they'll see more than just a bunch of hairless apes bumbling through space. Hairless apes with a penchant for causing trouble, Holt added, grinning. Precisely, Jax replied. But now we're trouble with a legacy, and that's something. As Earth loomed larger in their viewports, the blue-green marble a beacon of home and hope, Jax felt an unfamiliar sensation. Not quite peace, but the promise of it. The possibility that, just maybe, they could carve out a future where humanity wasn't just a footnote in the annals of galactic history, but a chapter. Admittedly, the kind full of chaos and witty repartees, which was just as well. They touched down to a reception that was less fanfare and more frantic organization, politicians scrambling to claim credit, scientists eager to dissect their findings, and civilians who just wanted to thank them for keeping their home intact. Jax, Citra, Holt, and even Kurug found themselves thrust into a whirlwind of activity. There were speeches to be made, interviews to dodge, and pictures to grimace through. But through it all, one thing remained clear: they had changed the game. And as they stood on the tarmac, basking in the glow of an uncertain future, Jax turned to his team, his grin as irrepressible as ever. Well, folks, looks like we've got ourselves a new beginning, Citra snorted, more like a headache wrapped in a bow. Yeah, Holt agreed. But at least it's our headache now. Jax nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. True enough. Onward then to whatever madness awaits. And with that they stepped forward into the chaos, the misfit heroes of an unlikely tale, ready to see where their next adventure would take them. Because if there was one thing they had proven, it was that humanity might be unpredictable, but it was also unstoppable. And in the grand tapestry of the cosmos, that was enough to make all the difference. As they moved through the crowd, their journey far from over, the galaxy opened up before them, a canvas of possibility, painted by those bold enough to wield the brush. And with a final shared glance, they knew one thing for certain: they were just getting started.